Oh, do we have a guest tonight? Oh, it's such an honor.
To the screen, huh?
Yes, you can sit there.
Hi.
Affectionately known as Maya Angel. And we are going to begin talking about dance. I'm your host, Michael Koran. Welcome to A Human Among Humans. Thanks to help from people like you, I'm getting to be I think I've arrived.
Human amongst humans.
Among humans, yes.
Okay, ha.
Aha. A-H-A-H.
Aha.
Brilliant guest. Look how she catches on so quickly.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to begin talking about dance.
Okay.
I'm going to tell people how I started to learn how to dance thanks to you.
Wow, thank you.
So Maya and I were a couple, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, a fierce, two independent, fierce couples. I was 20 years older.
Yeah.
And still am, but the percentage is less.
That's right. The percentage is less.
So we go dancing. I had never known how to dance. I was in my head. I was a University of Chicago grad.
Right.
The life of the mind. One of the most famous chancellors said, whenever he had an urge to exercise, he lay down until it passed. So they weren't into life of the mind. And fortunately, I met Maya. So we're dancing. Here we are. We haven't danced in a
I'm
while.
not sure I really want to go back to that period, but yeah.
Well, you can stop me when you want. And Maya says, in her sweet, loving way, "Where's the juice?"
That's what you remember.
It's hard to forget it.
Oh, wow.
It was a little hard to hear at the moment, but so helpful.
Well, I don't remember saying that.
I know.
I'll let you go with
Yes,
that since this is your show.
Yes, I had another friend of mine. We're dancing, and she says, "Move your hips." Because another friend said, "Move your feet." I was just like, so I've learned. It was one of the great gifts of my life. I eventually found a dance teacher,
Right.
Pastor Crowley,
Wonderful.
and I thought he was going to help me, improve my moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he said, no. Let's start at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
You might remember this.
Mm.
It's called, I don't know if you know this. It's called the small dance.
Oh, the small dance, huh? Small but beautiful.
The small dance, you remember what it is?
No, I don't think anybody ever introduced me to that.
It's the founder of Contact Improv.
Oh, okay.
The small dance is feet on the floor. Make sure you don't fall. Don't try to move at all. Just be aware of how your body is moving naturally. No intention whatsoever. And that's how we began.
And of course, some people probably won't know what contact dance is, even though there's a whole community that's developed around contact dance, and I think Michael and I both have somewhat interesting histories with contact dance, though we're not like prominent leaders or anything in the field. But it's a pretty amazing movement form that developed, I believe, in the 80s or so. Maybe it started a little earlier.
Yeah, it's like 70s, I think.
70s. It's sort of a synthesis of, it has elements of modern dance, it has elements of martial arts, it has, from my point of view, elements of gymnastics, and it has elements of interpersonal awareness and yoga. It's all kind of rolled together. I've not been that in contact with contact dance for a while, partially because of back injuries, so I'm not as up to date with my information about it. I used to be pretty aware of the interesting history of it and how it developed in France and New York, and was sort of like a gestalt, like a kind of coming of ideas together.
And it's called contact because you can be in contact with each other, like modern dance.
Do you remember who you're calling the founder? I mean, there was the Judson Church in New York.
Oh, what is his name? Oh, too bad I'm going to be 82.
Okay.
That's the name.
Well, Nancy Stark Smith
Yes,
was
a
a
big-
big
yes.
player, but she wasn't. There
And
was.
Patrick Crowley was my
Yeah.
teacher.
Oh, we'll have to do a sequel after we've done our homework.
Yes.
I didn't expect
And you
it.
can move apart, but you can also kind of roll on each other. It's very, very nice. And you maintain a rolling point of contact.
And the floor is a big partner. We might not go there now because then you won't see us anymore.
Yeah, hi. But we feel, Patrick told me, let your body's weight pour like honey into the floor.
And then there's also all kinds of things of tension of pulling away and power of
Yeah, we
pulling
can.
in.
If we can feel each other now.
You can pull back even more, counterweight basically.
Whoa, trust each
And
other.
then coming in.
If we could, I needed you, I would have fell.
That's right. So it has, anyway, look it up, Contact Dance. I think.
Contact improvisation.
Right, and there's a whole magazine devoted to it, and many people who are teachers in this area, and Northampton, Colorado, and Europe, and it's even in places as far away as India and Africa. At this point, it's spread, and it's been incorporated by other forms of dance, like ballet companies and modern dance companies like Mark Morris. They all incorporated aspects of contact dance into their choreography.
And since you mentioned the magic word India,
Aha.
why don't you tell us a little about your experiences in India, which also has a lot of dance involved, right?
Yes, indeed. But can we sit down?
Yes.
I wasn't really prepared for dancing.
We
We're
are
talking about
changing the
contact
set.
dance tonight.
Because now we're moving from dance.
Do you think we could have some technical help to move?
No, we can do it.
Okay.
What?
Let's make this a dance.
Well, yes, let's make everything a dance. We're always
So
dancing.
how are we gonna, can I help?
Yes, we can just, that's all that it takes.
All right, so we'll push this over. Aha.
Yes, and move it back a bit. Move
Okay.
it back. I'm sure this is fascinating TV.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If only we could get up and dance.
Well, we can dance
on
again.
the tabletop with a piano,
Not
loud
my
piano.
balance, babe. But my angel. Okay,
Okay,
and here's a chair for you.
fantastic.
And somehow,
And it rolls.
although they usually have two chairs in the
I
studio,
think I'll be on.
for some reason,
Oh.
there's only one. Let me see what this is like.
Okay, well, while Michael's trying to find a stool rather than a chair, and maybe we'll take
I
turns
might
sitting on
Be
that.
two, make one of us. I might be two.
I want to thank him because he really, I had no idea that he was going to take to dance the way he did. That he took that beginning, that was a little bit rough actually, at Dance Freedom in Cambridge, that had been a real home for me. And he went ahead and he pursued becoming a mover. Somebody embodied, somebody more present and aware in their body.
Help me be happy.
And he's gone on a long journey with that. And I didn't know he was gonna end up hiring Patrick Crowley privately to come to his home
10
and
years.
teach him, and then write a book.
I'm almost finished.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about
Why don't we
that
move
book?
closer so people can see more of us?
Okay, it's fun to be the interviewer, though I'm here to be the interviewee. So,
Oh, let's see.
okay. Nice that my scarf happens to match your
Oh,
sweater.
this is nice. This is close. Okay. So, well, I was living the life of the mind. Poor Maya, when we were together, she was living with a mind.
Why don't we switch places? Because you're a lot taller than me in this chair.
You're seeing us play musical chairs in this. That's what you wanted, I am
There
sure.
we go. That's better, right, guys? Is that better? You know?
Yes, now I'm smaller.
I'm taller than
yes, this is good. Finally, met someone, so I can be humbled.
So you were saying about Patrick and the book.
Well, I used to be, I've taught psychic skills for a long time. So I've seen you bigger than me.
I know.
Wow!
I was reading your mind when I decided we should move.
Yeah.
I knew you'd like that.
I could make this higher, but maybe I won't.
I wasn't able to get it to heighten. But go on about the book.
Okay.
It's called
Heal, H-E-E-L.
Heal.
S-O-U-L, Soul.
Heal Soul.
366 ways to dance through our day.
So 366, is that a year that doesn't have leap?
That does have. Yeah, we don't want to.
Oh, right.
We don't want
Every
to.
4 years.
We don't want to slight.
That's right.
leap
365
That would be
usually.
sad.
Like Whole Foods.
Yeah, we went to
365.
366. We thought it might be.
That I was trying to say that.
Yes.
Okay, so 366 ways
to dance through our day. And I realize we're always dancing. We're always moving. And when we're aware of it, there can be different ways, getting closer, farther away. Too close to comfort, farther, yes. So we're always dancing. And the book began as a journal for what Pat was teaching me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rewrote it and channeled him. I could feel his presence. And we worked for 10 years. I've been writing it off and on for 12. It's just about ready to go.
Yeah, and
you're one of the people who helped edit it.
Yeah, I really had a fun time editing it because I could relate to the material. Like, I knew what Michael was talking about when he would talk about his paying attention to his breath or opening up to the energy of the universe flowing through his body from sky to earth.
From the ground to...
or a certain amount of letting go into an authentic flow in your body where you're not trying to push the movement forward.
My, was that hard.
But it's...
Not to try too hard.
Yeah, and then the poetry in it is also a lot about the personal journey of trying to wrestle, like Israel did, with kind of our unhappy or hurt, wounded selves, and also
or violent,
violent,
or fury, or anger, and how to have it fuel a beautiful dance.
Right, or to how it can actually be released through dance, so it doesn't just get stuck inside.
Kick that energy
the
out.
Body as a kind of like sore, compounded, icky place.
Yeah, we do. We shared that anger with each other.
Yeah, some back then.
Yes, but not
that
anymore.
Was a long time ago.
Now I call her Maya Angelou. She calls me Michelangelo. There's hope for all of us.
So we probably want to move on, but I'm just wondering who's out there in the audience. I wish there was a way to be interactive. I know that so many of my friends are dancers. A dancer's been a dance, and dancers have been a huge thread in my life. I was reflecting on that a little just on the way in to meet Michael, because we hadn't chosen our topic for tonight. There were too many different things going on in our
you
lives.
promised you wouldn't tell them. I thought they'd think this was deeply
no, but this was rehearsed,
and
right?
rehearsed. Yes. We've been working on it for months, the show.
Well, we have our whole lifetime.
Yes, our whole we have.
So I was going to maybe talk about my father, which I did the last time I was on the show, and his passing as a very, for me, formative experience, the passing of a loved one that almost all of us have experienced already or will sooner or later. But we decided to focus more on dance tonight as a through line, but that it could touch on my father, my mother, us, and whatever else comes up.
India.
So what
Elephants.
Would you like to know about
I would
India?
first like to know how you began to dance.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. My first first two memories of dancing are just very informal dancing in a special little playroom that we had in Springfield, Mass. And there was a kind of speckled linoleum floor that I liked and bay windows that let a lot of light in. And I just remember sort of twirling around and dancing in there and then doing little mini impromptu performances with my sisters or alone in a living room right near there for my parents. And that the vibe in the house or the culture in the house was very open to that kind of playful creativity. My mother played violin a little and piano a little, and I don't remember specifics. I do remember her working on a beautiful mask of the sun in the basement, and my father having a little kind of casual amateur photo studio in the basement, photo lab to develop his negatives. So there was an environment of creativity, and I don't know that my mother actually said, well, now move like the wind in the willow, or move like you're walking on peanut butter, or dance like you're happy or sad. I don't think she led us through that kind of creative prompting, but I do remember being excited to move already as a little 3 and 4 year old, 5-year-old. And then the other very first memory that I have of dance at this moment is being out in an apple orchard somewhere near Springfield, Mass, where I was born, and feeling very free and happy. And again, sort of twirling around with my arms open, and then finding a bunch of feathers, I think, on the ground. And all of it's a little blurry at this point, but there's also a memory of putting feathers in my mother's dark hair, and some sense of a bit of a shamanic path between her and me, the feathers in the hair and the being close to nature and the freedom to move with the elements. So those are my first two memories.
What beautiful memories. And what do you mean by shamanic?
Well, I know it's a bit cliche, and I also know...
We're into cliches. Is the place to come where you'd like to just feel comfortable with words you've known for a long time.
I miss you. Oh, thank you for that recovery. The shamanism, I don't know that my mother would identify herself that way. I doubt it. But my sisters and I see a shamanic feeling or energy in her of being connected to the earth in indigenous ways, indigenous people, and feathers are often almost like a mystical tool of shamans, whether it's in the headdresses or used perhaps in prayer. And I feel that they connect us to spirit world because they're from another realm. So maybe it's not that unusual, but my sense is not that many little girls would have been so drawn to these feathers on the ground and wanted to put them in their mother's hair that way. I think it was meaningful.
No wonder you're such a wonderful person with an upbringing like that. I was just learning to be very competitive and play baseball.
Yeah, maybe I should have learned a little more of that, right?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
I would have won a few games by now. Yeah. But luckily there's win-win around in the world at this point, and that model would be so wonderful to see shown in movies like Avatar, where maybe they have this amazing, blockbuster and the most expensive movie in the world, and it's really visually gorgeous, and maybe they could have shown us more of a win-win-win possibility, not without denying the horrors of colonialism and war and war over oil and war potential over water and the war of invading natural resources and other beings, elephants and whales and forests. But for me, I've been so disappointed with both the prior Avatar that came out in 2009 or 10 and this amazing recent Avatar movie, The Way of the Water, because it's got so much that I like, and has such a huge impact or influence possible, and then it just somehow doesn't show that next step of some other paradigm possibility about win-win negotiation, peace negotiation, nonviolence. And we're coming up right to Martin Luther King Day, so it's very much on my mind.
So with that as the beginning in dance, what was your journey after that?
Yeah, let's get back to our dance topic.
Yeah, well, that's the basic theme, although we're going to be talking about, we
good.
hope, elephants in India and parents who they're getting older passing.
Well, I just took it on that other tangent to Avatar, which you should see if you haven't.
I saw the first one. That's enough for me.
I hear you.
You know.
Okay, so we moved. My parents. My father was an engineering professor at, I think, Springfield College and maybe some other college in Springfield, Mass area. And my parents were involved with voter registration, and I think there was a certain amount of threat going on towards my parents because they were doing things that were very liberal or progressive, and there was like a Ku Klux Klan attack basically on our house in Springfield. People find this hard to imagine. Now anti-Semitism has kind of resurfaced, but back in 1965 or so, or 1966, it was kind of more under wraps, but there were swastika signs all over our car and our windows, and my parents, for various reasons, including feeling that the neighborhood was really becoming unsafe for them and going downhill, wanted to go somewhere else, and actually were unusually open to wanting their children, they had 3 kids, I was the youngest, to live in other cultures and become more like world citizens rather than just sort of nationalist or parochial. So my father, long story short, we were supposed to go to Nigeria. We were on our way. That trip got sort of cut short very abruptly because of a war breaking out in Nigeria. So then we had to come back to America after trapsing around Europe that summer. And then my father got an assignment in India and getting to the dance.
Wow.
India was where I first studied. 1, 2, 3, big breaths.
Not quite.
Do you need the tissues?
Yes, the tissue.
Whoa, that was a suspenseful.
Yeah, it didn't quite come. Oh, good.
Oh,
I'm trying to keep it in.
Okay, good. I heard that.
So you went. Your father got an assignment in India.
In South India.
To do what?
To teach engineering.
Wow.
I was a professor's brat, as they might say, rather than an army brat. And that is where my sisters, both of them considerably older than me, and I started taking dance classes at home.
From India, from an Indian teacher?
Yeah, from a Brahmin Indian man who was very beautiful posture and very beautiful dark olive skin and totally, dark oiled, coconut oiled black hair with the Brahmin string across his chest. Brahmin wear a diagonal string from their shoulder across their chest as some kind of marking it maybe for prayer.
Yeah.
Again, I'll have to go home and do my homework for the sequel. But he came to our house. His name was Mohan Bhagat, and he was very playful. And so for a little 6.5, 7-year-old to have a really playful, handsome, striking dance teacher come to the home every week was really fun. So he was teaching my 2 older sisters a classical form of Indian dance called Bharatnatyam that is very ancient. and with a lot of hand mudras and facial expressions showing different emotions.
Wow.
Like, envy and flirtation and joy and anger and so on and so forth, and hand movements that gesture like a deer or
That sounds so beautiful.
drinking water,
Oh my.
or let's see, perhaps like a flower opening.
Now this is he's teaching your sisters, not you.
He was teaching them that form, and then I must have noticed, he saw that I was a bit gymnastics oriented and a bit rascally, like very wild still, and very strong. I was really, really strong in my upper body as a little girl. And he taught me a dance, and I think it was based in Bharatanatyam, but I don't think it was like an exact orthodox classical Bharatanatyam dance. I think it was a little more free. And it was, and this is very exciting to me, and maybe it explains some of why I was so furious with you back in the day, because the dance was to represent a poisonous, kingly, queenly serpent.
Wow.
A cobra. The cobra of
He was
India.
teaching a six-year-old to be a poisonous serpent.
Of course, cobras are highly, highly regarded as sacred animals in India. So they're feared, they're revered.
They're poisonous, right?
And but they can have the people can remove the poison, but they're considered, very sacred, religious, mythical figures.
Did you touch them? And
I did touch a few cobras, but they were depoisoned.
Yes.
Just like a cat can be declawed.
yes.
These had been depoisoned. I never actually touched a cobra in the wild that still was poisonous. I learned to, again, I'm not really prepared, but this was my hood, the hood of the cobra.
Wow.
And then I had very striking black eyebrow makeup on that's sort of like the sort of almost triangular or upside down V's above the cobra's eyes on the hood. And it really stood out when I made my eyes big as a child. And I had this totally black outfit on, not snakeskin, more like just striking black, with a powerful jeweled belt, a belt with lots of glittery jewels. And my hair was very long and much blonder. And my back was extremely limber as a little girl. So I could sway and really do
Oh,
all
wow.
the movements
Oh,
of
wow.
arching and swaying and swiveling.
And did you feel like you were a cobra?
No, I don't think I felt like I was a cobra. I think, I just loved the movement without any thought. It was not
Yes.
But I think there was some sense of when you do that kind of thing, even though I wasn't thinking about it as a 7-year-old that clearly, or 7.5, but it's more like you're a bridge between the human, and another form. I didn't actually feel that I became the cobra. It was more like I was bridging and interpreting the energy and the spirit of the cobra into sort of a dance.
Wow.
And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
What a beautiful education for a 7-year-old.
And as a parting gift to our friends in India, we became very, very close to quite a lot of people over just the 2 years that we were there.
Thanks to anti-Semitism, right?
What?
Because of the Ku Klux Klan.
I think that was a real factor. I also think my parents, not just reactively, but proactively, had a keenness about kind of showing us the world.
Oh my.
And my mother had actually wanted to go to India since she was since she was a child, so it all fit in. But, hey, so I can get to that. because that relates to the elephants. My mother's story has to do with elephants and India. But what I'm trying to say is that the experience of getting to study with this man made me love dance, because he would put me on his feet. I wish I could show you. I'll back up a little. Like, he would have me stand on both of his feet, and then he would go 1, 2, 3, and he would kick his feet up, and I would like go flying through the hair. And
Wow.
and I would just, I wanted to do that over and over.
Oh, do it again. Do it again.
So this intro to dance was with somebody who really made it fun. It wasn't all about hundreds of exercises without a pause. It was work. It was work, and I did memorize the dance, and there was live music on the stage, but it was also like just playful and fun. And I think it made me feel very empowered to play the cobra. And I didn't have a sense of it being poisonous. I had more the sense of it being a regal, powerful, beautiful animal like the king cobra or the queen cobra,
Wow.
which are sacred, as I said, sacred animals, like so many other animals in India.
And you were living in India.
Yeah.
And that must have been quite a experience after coming from America.
I know. I should lead you and a bunch of other people back there on a trip. That would be such a dream.
Yes, I'm one of the few regrets in my life, except for my whole life, but the specifics
Except for your whole life. That's good.
is my parents were going on a tour to India, and I did not go. And that I regret.
And that's really interesting. You mentioned that to me on one of our recent visits. We've become better friends over time.
There was a big margin for improvement.
Yeah, but it's also, really a story of hope for any of you currently in a couple where things feel confounded or messy or
Two poisonous cobras
really disappointing.
dancing together.
The amazing friendship that's evolved is so strong. I did a lot of editing on Michael's book last year. He's been in touch with me when I'm going through crises. He's been in touch when I'm happy.
Now, the secret of this friendship, I've done this with two people, is when we were more
You gotta whisper it to me.
angry at one another, I stayed friends with her wonderful
Oh
father.
gosh, no, that almost undid the relationship.
That undid it? Oh,
That almost undid
I thought
it
it
for
was
me.
helping it.
No.
No. Oh, truth is coming out. Why? Tell me why.
That was a little bit over the top for me when we split up, that you were then like being best friends with my dad. I was like, give me a break, man. Let's just have some space here and don't just be like pulling my dad over to you or my dad like sidling up with you.
Because he was very grateful to you for introducing us.
So I guess it was a double-edged sword or truth, because in some ways it did keep us connected, and I did enjoy that my father had found a friend in you.
Yes.
But for a little while there, in all authenticity,
Yes.
after we parted, it was actually upsetting for me
and
to
I didn't
have
know
the
that.
two of you
Fools.
kind of talking deeply and intimately
Fools.
while
I thought that and part of the reason I was his friend was I wanted to become friends with Maya again.
Well, it worked. It ultimately worked. And he may be having a little dance up there because he was rather
Miss him. He was
mischievous and playful himself.
All these people dying.
What's the time frame? I feel like I've already talked a lot. I'm trying to be a good guest.
You are a very good guest. We grade our guests, as all the audience knows.
Is there
So
something
far,
better
this is
than
a
A?
5-star guest.
5 out of what?
Out of 5.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So, it's 6:34. Well, what would you guys out there in the world like to know about? Let's see if we can use our psychic skills.
Yes. Well, we still we had a plan here. This is not just, it's structured improv. So we were going to also talk about elephants.
Perfect. Do you want to start off? Do you want to share something you know or you wonder about with elephants? Or
I have, unfortunately, nothing.
well,
No wondering. I mean, now that I'm getting older and feeling nature more, I'm touched that these huge animals are make really loving families, it seems, with each other. But I'm speaking out of, well, totally necessity. Tell us about your attraction to elephants.
Okay.
It was connected to India, I think.
Yes. Is there any way we can get that chair? It is really ridiculous.
To me being so low?
I mean, I am used to being taller than people because I'm a stilt dancer.
Oh, let me see if I can.
I'm often several feet above the crowd, but for a conversation like this,
I'm enjoying it being smaller, but it's a rare moment. I've lost 3 inches since I've known you.
Well, I've lost not quite as much. And for every inch I lose, I try to gain
Now,
another.
there's a way.
Let's see.
Now, there's a way when I'm sitting.
It's right here, but like try getting off a minute. That's
Yes.
down.
Yeah.
Now, let me see if I can get it to go up. Oh, it won't go up.
Yeah, that's up.
There. Oh, there we go. Finally.
Oh, wow.
That's better.
You're seeing different perspectives on this show.
That's better. Right?
There we are.
That's
oh.
I'm still a little higher up.
Yes, but only a little now. I'm used to being higher up.
As I was saying, I'm used to being taller than people because of my stilt dancing.
Yes.
Which is another interesting development that I think about elephants as being sort of larger than life usually, and stilting is sort of larger than life. Something in my path has brought me to those things, but I also like delicate, small things, and have been doing some very fine, delicate coloring, making beautiful sort of tea boxes and mandalas. So I like the range. But anyway, about elephants.
Yes.
Maybe could you ask me like a very specific?
Well, yeah. How did you? I think you loved elephants. I think you even once went down south to be with elephants.
Yes, good memory. Wow, I'm impressed. How much should I dive into this? Because it's kind of a long story.
We can. Well, I mean, we don't usually talk about
so
elephants. So
everybody get your cup of tea, and maybe like a little elephant doll or fetish or a blanket, and here we go. A long time ago, there was a movie called Elephant Boy. It was filmed by Robert Flaherty, who was one of the first documentary filmmakers. And he filmed the film Elephant Boy, which was partially fictional but based on a lot of truth about great white hunters and great Maharaja Indian hunters in the jungles of southern India. And the character who played Elephant Boy, Sabu, was an actual little Indian boy, not an actor, just, an actual elephant child who was brought up around mahouts, who are the caretakers of elephants, and who was, I guess, auditioned for the movie and fit the role. And his name was Sabu, and then he later played in Alibaba and the 40 Thieves in Hollywood. He ended up becoming a big movie star. And his life actually ended up quite difficult and tragic, maybe in part because he had gone from being this little villager, jungle Indian boy to this very wealthy, seductive environment of Hollywood, and maybe that transition was just a little too intense.
Ooh.
But I digress.
Yes.
So the movie Elephant Boy had a lot about hunting, and a lot of it wasn't that enjoyable for me when I finally watched it in my 20s. But my mom remembered seeing it when she was a young girl, maybe herself around 6 or 5 or 7, in Paris, in France, in the 1930s. She was living in Paris because her family had fled from Germany before Hitler came into full control and reign. They sensed and read and saw the signs, and were one of the families to leave Germany early, tying back into our experience in Springfield. My parents are both Jewish, and they both are refugees, immigrants from Germany from World War II. But they met in this country. They didn't know each other in Germany. So my mom was living in Paris as a way of getting away from Germany with her father and mother and brother Clem Kalischer. And they didn't have a lot of money. They had left a lot behind. They had left a lot of their identity behind, their paperwork, their professions, their house, a lot of their belongings. Everything was left quite hurriedly, and I think a lot of things were burnt to not leave a paper trail. They really seemed to know that real deep doo-doo was coming down the pike. Really dangerous stuff was going on. And so they were not well off, and I don't think they went out to movies a lot or ate out in restaurants a lot, and I think my mother got hand-me-down clothes. But her father took her to the Elephant Boy movie as a rare and special treat. And my mother fell in love with a scene in the movie where there's a full moon, and the elephants are in a clearing at night under the full moon in the jungle, and they're almost dancing themselves, swaying and moving their trunks and their big but sort of graceful bodies in this moonlit circular clearing.
Wow.
And just like, yeah, wow, what a scene.
Yes.
Yeah, I could feel you swaying
Yes.
with me.
And now this is your mother seeing this.
Yes.
So how did you get to see it? She wanted you to see it?
Well, I actually didn't see the movie till in my 20s, and I would like to see it again. It's like so many other things we're talking about tonight. There's been these rich chapters in my life, but they're so far back already that I don't remember the details. But what I do know is that when my father got a job in southern India, my mother and him were delighted, and they took the job, and when we got there, somehow we discovered that it was in the city where the film had been made.
Wow.
And as a child, my mother had actually internally felt like, I want to go there someday. I want to see that. I want to see those elephants. I want to see that land. I want to meet a little boy like Sabu. And she held that somewhere in her heart. I don't think she really had a sense that, oh, this is really going to happen. And my father had never really particularly thought about India growing up. He probably thought more about Australia, Africa. But his assignment was through American International Development, through the University of Ohio, and it was to work to teach engineering in southern India to engineering students at a university, and he was very happy and keen to go, not knowing, neither of them knowing that it was going to bring along this kind of interesting thread from my mother's childhood right into our family life. And not only that, but the daughter of the filmmaker who had helped with the film when she was young had fallen in love with a great South African Boer who lived in southern India, Boer, some of the South African white people who lived in India. And he was one of the best taxidermists in all of India.
Oh my.
And he did have king cobras and deer and dik-dik and tigers stuffed in his house. And she ended up marrying him. They lived in a big, beautiful stucco house and had big, beautiful beds with mosquito nets. And she became close friends with our family, the daughter of Robert Flaherty, the filmmaker, Barbara Van Ingen. And she took us into the forest to ride on domesticated elephants to try to see wild elephants and tigers. So there's sort of this amazing spiral of the story.
Yes. Oh, so you were riding an elephant when you were like 7?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, I was riding ponies at the...
Yeah.
Wow, what was that like? Do you remember?
I have, unfortunately, only a few pictures, and they're very faded. I wish I could find a few more, but it was really like the swaying motion that you could feel, and just this being up so high, just the hugeness of these unbelievable living beings that are really like that poem, The Blind Man and the Elephant, even if that's politically incorrect, like the blind man who feels the tail and thinks it's a rope, and feels the leg and thinks it's a tree, and feels the body and thinks it's a wall. They're just so massive. So being up there was profound. And the mahout would sit between the back of the head of the elephant and sort of on its shoulders and into its neck area, and then have its feet. The mahout's feet were bare feet. And he would have, and it was almost always men at that time. It slowly, there are a trickle or a handful of female mahouts in India. But at that time, it was really only male mahouts. And again, mahout is like somebody who's a caretaker of a domesticated elephant, and they often work with an individual elephant from the time the elephant is a baby till the elephant is 50, 67. Often the elephant outlives their human companion, the mahout. And some mahouts are very gentle and kind, and some mahouts are quite rough and treacherous. There's a whole span, but there's a deep, powerful, intimate, I don't mean sexually, but intimate closeness between the mahout and its main elephant or several elephants. And
Yeah, people can have
they
that.
spend the whole life together.
Who train horses.
Yes, it's amazing. So the mahout puts their bare feet into the notch behind the ears.
Whoa.
Of course, the elephant has much bigger ears and a much bigger notch, but then if I pressed on the right ear,
I move.
then the elephant would move right.
I move right.
And so that's the way they steer and work with the elephant.
We might have got along better this way if we made this clear.
Yeah, it's contact dance too. You often holding the head and having the spine follow, or putting the hand down lower on the spine and
wow, this show might be banned in Boston.
Oh yeah, Boston. I think it's a little less conservative than that these days, but yeah. So Isadora Duncan was the one with the scarf that got caught and unfortunately killed her, and I think she was the one that danced in Boston semi-nude and got like thrown out back in the... Was that Isadora Duncan?
I do not know. Okay. I know they banned Walt Whitman.
Sequel. We'll be back.
And Huckleberry Finn. This was a way to really make it as an author. If you could get banned in Boston, you had it made.
Oh, that's a good idea. I guess
Ulysses was banned.
Wow. We'll have to try that approach.
Lady Chatterley's Lover. There's been courses on banned books. Boston banned books. Whitman, Twain, Joyce, Henry Miller. All these.
What do you think it is about Boston that kind of lends itself to that level?
We are very proper. There's an old mantra you might not know. Boston, the home of the bean and the cod. With the Lowells, where your dad taught, where the Lowells talk only to Cabots, and the Cabots talk only to God.
Oh, God.
So little words. Rich people, the Brahmins, they were called Brahmins.
Yeah. Right, Brahmins, yeah.
So, I don't want to, I'm going to save that, because I want to, when we were together, you went down
to Tennessee.
And tell us what that was like.
Yes, so I'm not used to being, even though I've been known to talk quite a bit, I'm not used to being so much the talker, the interviewee, and Also, there's something about the angles of seeing yourself on TV. If any of you ever come in here, it makes it a little distracting, and you're supposed to show your best profile.
Oh, we are? I never thought of that.
I'm not sure that I'm on
I
the
don't
right
even know if I
side.
have one. Is it this or that? I'm learning now.
Right?
We only have 7 minutes to go. So what happened in Tennessee?
So let's all zoom in.
Yes,
Laser. So I did not do an elephant dance when I was 6 to 8 in India. I did the cobra dance. I wasn't thinking about doing an elephant dance, but somehow as time went on, I became very interested in lions, actually, not elephants. And I wanted to go to Kenya to work with George and Joy Adamson, who wrote Elsa and the Cubs. And I wrote them. I found their address through a Boston Globe writer, and I wrote them, and they said I could come work with them in Kenya, and I was so excited. I was so clear that that's what I wanted to do, and being clear had not come easily to me.
And this was what age was this?
This was like right getting out of high school, and I really made an effort to find out how to be in touch with them through this Boston Globe writer, because I had seen an article about them. And then they wrote me back after, saying, yes, you can come, but you have to earn your own way. And I was like, that's fine. I'll earn my own way, no problem.
Wow.
And then they wrote me back and they said, no, you cannot come. It would be crazy to come. We've been having so much violence. Your phone's ringing.
Yes, we'll just have to let it ring.
Oh, okay. Well,
it'll stop. You talk through it.
Syncopation.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a warning that we're close to the end. But there were murders going on, and as you know, one of them was killed, and it's not clear whether a lion killed them or a poacher. It's not resolved as far as I know. There's really, if people are not familiar with how much violence goes on in the work of wildlife conservation, it is a kind of warfare. It is a war front, because the poachers, who are desperate often for food or money, and very impoverished communities often, or part of mafia type chains, or black markets, they can be ruthless, and they're trained, and they have guns and rifles. And on the other hand, you have these increasingly trained sort of militia protecting the forest and protecting the animals, and they also tend to be armed now. There's even all-female military, like forest conservation military units in Africa, and it turns violent. I mean, there's actual, not just death of the animals, but death of the human animals protecting the wildlife or hunting the wildlife, and lots of stories about that. Anyway, it never worked to go to Kenya because they had just had a murder there, and they didn't have enough guards, and they didn't feel it was safe for me to come. And I didn't push through that, and maybe that's why I'm still here today. I look back and I think maybe I should have gone anyway, but it was too scary for me. Instead, I went to Oberlin College, which wasn't exactly like being with lions.
No.
And at Oberlin, I studied
3.5 minutes to find out what happened in Tennessee, if you want to tell us.
But from lions, somehow the interest turned back to elephants, and I went to Leslie. I don't quite know. It's a question I'm asking myself.
Oh.
How did the interest in elephants resurface and get so much bigger?
I'm more interested in what happened when you went there.
I understand. So I went to Leslie University after working at the zoo in Boston.
Yes.
For 5 years, and the zoo was more so about lions and other animals.
Wow,
and they didn't have lions or elephants.
Lions and tigers or bears.
Although they got lions while I was there, and that's a whole other story. But so I went back to I went to Leslie College and it started focusing on environmental, ecological issues, the arts, and community building. And somehow in the process there, I decided to focus on elephants as my main topic, but to look at elephants from economic, political, mythical, and scientific wildlife lens.
Wow.
And then I wanted to have some live contact with elephants, and since it was rather expensive to fly all the way to India or to Tanzania or, any of the African countries that still have African elephants, I found out that there was this sanctuary in Tennessee.
Wow.
Right near where country music is, like right near, what's the name of the country music capital down there? Nashville, Tennessee. I think that's where I landed on the plane.
Yes.
And I got a car out to this elephant sanctuary, and the only reason that the woman who was running the elephant sanctuary would let me into that sanctuary, which she kept heavily, like, kind of private, secretive, kind of guarded at that time, to protect the elephants that were there, many of whom were traumatized elephants that had gotten hurt in circuses or at zoos. But she had an elephant that she loved, who she had been in a safari type zoo setting with, and it had gotten pregnant. And she had been with it through its pregnancy in this kind of zoo safari job that they did together, and it had she was gonna name the baby elephant Maya.
Oh, so your name? Oh no! Wow, I'm gonna cry.
And the baby was born, stillborn.
And that's what. Oh.
And she and the elephant were heartbroken, and she decided at that point to leave that kind of safari commercial setting, and that she needed to give her elephant, whose name right now I'm not remembering. Her elephant was an amazing elephant.
25 seconds to go.
So anyway, she let me in because of that name association, and that's where I began to study elephant movement, their walk.
Wow, I did.
In person.
Like the cobra.
And then looking at these careful charts of their movement, how they place their four legs.
Oh my.
And then it led to going to Thailand and India and doing a huge elephant dance. If you want to see more about it, I do have a website. And I'm still mounting the website.
2 seconds.
Page, it's MayaGoldRiverArts.com. MayaGoldRiverArts.com.